How's it going? Good, good. I need to respond to a few things. Um, yeah. First, in response to your story that I responded to, that then you responded to, I just thought of a quote from Princess Bride where Wesley says to, when he still hasn't revealed himself to be Wesley, he says to Buttercup, "Life is pain, and anyone who says otherwise is selling something." Anyway, thought that was a little applicable. Now I have to respond to your video, Why Fantasy, that excerpt from uh, Brandon Sanderson, which his book, Way of Kings, it is very good. It's much too long, but I'm going to read the whole thing and hopefully the whole series if I have time. It's just going to take me a while, but that's okay. Man, it's good. Very detailed, and I can't like my memory's so bad. I'll read a page and then, or I'll keep going and then I'm like, wait, I've heard that name before. And it turns out like 2 chapters ago, the whole chapter was about that same character, and I'm like, how do I not remember that? Anyway, but yeah, it's really really good. Yeah, fantasy can do anything. That's very true. And it reminds me of one time Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, who created Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all that. Um, he the first thing that he wrote out was this creation story. And then he writes out this, 1,000-year history that is the first age, and then a little bit of the second age, and then all of this stuff about the third age, all to publish a story called The Hobbit that happens, it's a very small event in the third age, and people were like, why did you create all this stuff just to tell a children's story? And in response, he said, "This helps me express my feeling about good and evil, foul and fair." So I was like, wow, all that just to say good and evil, foul and fair. That's pretty incredible. Dragons are cool too. I'm working on uh, a thought entry as to why I think everybody ought to read fiction as well as nonfiction. Business leaders should be business people. They often focus on these nonfiction business books, selling and marketing and advertising and leadership and strategy and profit margins. But I think they also ought to read fiction just as much. And actually, on the back of Way of Kings, Brandon Sanderson's book, one of the reviewers says that it is amazing that a fantasy author has embodied good leadership so well in his work. So, yeah, that's cool stuff. Fantasy is very important. So, I looked back on the course of what's going on with speeches and stories, lyrics and letters. The way it's been working is that I think we repeated where you did 2 speeches in a row, and that's not the way. Um, uh, uh, yeah, the way it came about is that we did the same 2 pieces. Like I did a letter and a lyric, I think twice in a row or something. So that's not the way it's supposed to work. So we're gonna fix that. I'm gonna do a speech right now. That way you can move on to a different piece next time that maybe you haven't done in a while. So today I wanted to talk about this. The speech has a very important quote. Very important, is that? I don't know if very important is the right word. Um, but it's a famous quote from Patrick Henry where the end says, "Give me liberty or give me death," which is kind of similar to the "Live free or die" state motto of New Hampshire. This speech has nothing to do with New Hampshire. Um, yeah, this speech was made in March of 1775 at the Second Virginia Convention, and it was made by Patrick Henry. The Second Virginia Convention was full of delegates sent by the state to determine if they should send more Virginian troops to help in the Revolutionary War. Uh, Here is the excerpt that I'm going to read. Um, yeah. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged, their clinking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat it, sir, let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will be to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. And that last line that made everyone in the room quiet for a few minutes or so. So the story goes. You see, this was actually not written down for something like 20 years after his death or something. Like, it wasn't recorded instantly. So all we have are like eyewitness accounts, sure, but it was years and years, decades later. Well, regardless of the accuracy of the speech that we have now, the speech that was given was enough that this speech turned the tide of the vote. The convention voted to send more Virginian troops to support the Revolutionary War, which we know that they won. And in that room, at the time of the speech, were two future U.S. presidents, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. The speech calls to action the bravery brewing inside all of us, not just the men at the time, but all of us. We need to realize that if we are not able to live freely, then we might as well not live at all. Now, that isn't to say that we shouldn't be alive. That's to say that sacrifice for the freedom or even the possibility of freedom for future generations is enough a cause as any. It is a noble cause, so to speak. And this is kind of a similar message that Jesus has for us, but not quite in the same context. Um, because Patrick Henry is saying that if we can fight and win like freedom, like political freedom, I guess is what type of freedom he was referring to. Um, we should do it because the troops are marching on us now. The troops are coming to us now. They have our shackles in hands, right? They're ready to put us into slavery. But Jesus has a message for us, on the other hand, where um, no matter what our life situation is, if we believe in Him, if we trust in Him, then we can find freedom of a different sort. And that's the freedom that we need to live in, the freedom that nothing in this material world has an effect on us. We There's nothing that this world can do to us anymore. Now, you and I, Ryan, we don't live in slavery. And if we did, it would be truly a miserable condition. But the chains of slavery in this world, thank God, do not resemble anything in eternity. Now, I'm not justifying slavery. I'm just comparing, actual slavery in this world to the slavery that we sometimes put ourselves in, which is sin, and Jesus comes to rescue us from that state of mind, slavery to sin, that we are no longer a slave to that sin anymore. Give me liberty, or just let me be dead to sin so that I can live freely. That's what I'm trying to say. So, and that's all that matters in the end, is that we are going to be free. So that's all I have to say about that. See you next time on Speeches and Stories, Lyrics and Letters.